Granite Time Podcast. Welcome to our Sahaja Yoga online podcast. Here we'll get to know a little bit more about meditation and we'll get stories. You'll get to know stories from people who have been meditating for a while. My name is David and I'm your host today. And today we have our guest, Pasquale Shalom. Hi Pasquale, how are you?
Hi David, I'm very well mate. And you? Good?
Very good, very good. Today was snowing here, right? It was a very nice
it is
kind
snowing.
of day. Yeah.
It is. It's a beautiful morning actually.
I found that it's kind of a special occasion to talk to Pasquale, so it's snowing. Nature is kind of reacting to that, right?
Yeah, it's giving us that cool down feeling.
So Pasquale, can you tell us a little bit how actually you got to know about Sahaja Yoga? When did you get your self-realization?
Yeah, well, I got to know it in 1989, and it was, I had a couple of years of intensely seeking, and, just my head was just asking all questions under the sun,
Were you
could
reading,
imagine.
reading and going to meetings? Or?
No, I wasn't reading too much. I had read a couple of bits about, the meditations and things, and more to do with the yoga aspect,
Okay.
But not too much, it was all inwards, in my head. So, and in 1989, I went to do a job, which was to renovate some studios for framing artists, So basically within there was a picture of Shamaji advertising the Portchester Hall program. But of course, what was intriguing for me was the fact that on the photograph, Shamaji was holding her chin, and this is like the philosopher pose, And of course, to me, it was totally intriguing because I was in my head, I needed answers to things, life, I came to the point where, just couldn't find the normality of life was enough. I couldn't believe that was it, It's like I used to say, when I was young, you go, you get married, have 2.5 kids, have a dog, have a house, have a car, all fancy stuff, and then you're dead.
It felt a little bit boring, like something a little.
Well, it felt
expected.
purposeless.
Purposeless.
It
Okay.
felt purposeless. I had no problems with earning money and doing that. And I had loads of friends, and I used to go out and party and whatever and things like that. I had a home. I had a flat with a girlfriend, and I also had a child. So all that went a little bit tipsy-turvy, in life. So, and that started a whole process of asking questions. So, and so I saw this poster of Shamaji in that, holding her chin in that, and that intrigued me, And for a while, I was relating to, as I was working in that environment where that poster was, I was always referring to it. I was totally intrigued. It felt like, you had someone to talk to in a funny way, So, and then, I went to the program, but believe it or not, I went to the program and I was looking around for this meditation, went to the Portchester Hall and it was nowhere to be seen. I couldn't believe it. What's going on, Then when I went back to the poster, I found I was a week early. So I went back next week, and stood there and finally went in because I started to debate whether, I should go or should not, Wasn't quite sure because I wasn't into anything in that way, spiritual or guru, even though I was asking all the questions in my head, so I had doubts of going in there, But eventually I went in and, and I sat there and I found it very difficult to understand anything, to be honest with you. For one thing, as we know now, when you go into that environment, there is a movement of Kundalini and where it can be very subtle. Mm-hmm. And in its subtleties, for me, as, I had a runny nose, this was in the middle of summer, July the 31st to be precise, and I had a runny nose. So it was a little bit disturbing and, I don't know how many times I was thinking of how to get out of here because it was a little bit embarrassing, But anyway, I didn't, and then I felt this tremendous cool breeze come all over me, just came. And as I felt that cool wind, I kind of, you turned to the side to see if a door was open, as you do. So I didn't really understand too much at that point. I didn't really would say I'd felt anything, because
it was a program with Shimataji, right? It wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, Shimataji was there and whatever, and after the program, of course, I just sat there watching, and
perhaps just if people don't know, like Shimataji is the founder of Sahaja Yoga, because maybe some people who are listening to us, they don't know yet.
Yeah, of course. I mean, as you see, there were the founder, Shimataji Nirmala Devi, she herself gave a load of programs in the United Kingdom and, of course, across the whole world. And at this time, I was fortunate enough that, there was a program being hosted in Porchester Hall. Mm-hmm. So I went there and, which, but the thing with me, I wasn't looking for an experience of anything, I mean, I was mm-hmm. looking for answers, and this came a little bit after that. So when I went to the public programs, like I walked into Covent Garden meeting, there was a central London meeting, and then I went to Hampstead. There was only those two meetings in the whole of London. Mm-hmm. So there I started to sit down and listen to what Shimataji was saying, and Shimataji, in her public program, she was always answering the questions I had in my mind. So I was getting all the answers, to all the questions I had, what is this all about, mm-hmm. So that was in 1989 that I got my realization, in a sense that, I did feel the cool breeze, but I didn't really understand anything, to be honest with you, what even that cool breeze was. Like I said, I thought it was just a draft coming on me. Mm-hmm. But over the couple of weeks, I started to really get intrigued by the philosopher, because obviously my first ever image I saw of Shimataji was with the chin, holding her chin. And so she was, in everything she said, she made in complete sense to me. Everything mm-hmm. she said was, and of course I couldn't understand everything because the accent was Indian. Now I'm born in Italy, but I grew up in London, and we didn't have so much to do with Indians in London because, there wasn't so many around, you would say, or they keep to themselves, So my growing up in London was more with the English or British kids, mm-hmm. black, white, Turkish and whatever, but never an Asian. So I never got to understand that language at all, or the accent. So I found it very, very difficult to hear her. But every snippet that I got was actually perfect for my mental satisfaction, for my mm-hmm. mental health, you would say, because it answered some of the questions I had in me.
And so you were saying that first you had the experience, and later now you've got knowledge enough kind of to satisfy your seeking. So the first experience when you felt kind of this cool breeze, also could you feel like the mental silence, the thoughtless awareness state, was that experience also so strong that made you keep on going?
No, not at all. I mean, my first experience was just that, and I had no mental silence. That was very, very hard to achieve at first. Um, and obviously, I was getting mentally satisfied in
Hmm.
a sense of what I was hearing. But of course, I did have a fundamental experience after about 3 or 4 weeks. I think it was something. What happened was I came back from work and I went home and I was quite tired. And so I sat there and I thought, yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm going to try this yoga stuff. You know? And so what I did, I brought my Kundalini up. And as my hand just reached to about here, my head just kind of exploded in a silence. Now, this is very hard to explain or probably understand. It was like my head just exploded and it was a silence. My brain just went dead silent. And
Wow.
I felt that, but I was shocked because, all I was doing is doing this. And suddenly it was boom. And I went into this silence where it made me jump. I was really like, what happened? And then I felt this flow. And at the same time, I started to feel all this electricity through my body, and as this electricity was running through me, I felt the bubbling of joy, and I was, outward, I was started laughing. Wow, this is amazing. I was thinking to myself, and I was like, and I thought, God, my neighbours must think I'm bloody crazy, man, because I felt so elevated, that joy. But, and that happened, that was quite fundamental in that moment,
Hmm.
But of course, that was an experience. But again, I wasn't really looking for an experience. That wasn't
Hmm.
the answer. That was not the answer I wanted. I still had lots of questions in myself, in my head. There were still conflictions with life.
Hmm.
I was completely conflicted with life. And, and this is where, I felt more of a relief than the experience. Okay, the bliss, it was quite amazing at that moment, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And, but again, the mind was much more powerful than the actual experience because again, after a few days, here I was in the churning of the ocean of the mind, and again, the programs were totally amazing for me because, that's where I completely went silent. This is where, you start to feel, because you were connecting with the words and how she was answering all your inner
Hmm.
questions, because I was quite detached from people, I didn't really mix too much because, this was a personal journey.
Hmm.
So, and even with my brothers and that, it was just too personal and I didn't want to go nowhere near it,
So you wouldn't
you know.
share with anyone kind of near to you, or would you talk to people like I'm experiencing this, or I have these questions? Would you share with anyone? No.
No, I wouldn't. It was just, it, I mean, as everybody would probably understand that, when you got this inner questions, inner quest, a lot of people tend to think you're nuts.
Yeah.
Not kidding, especially in the 80s, the
Hmm.
thing was, it was more like a butch culture, you know. So, so you think, you turn inwards more, let the external, even my friends, I had to just drop them off, you know what I mean? Because it was getting too intense for me. And I just, I needed my own space, so, yeah, so that's, so it's an inner journey in your own, and I couldn't really share it at that point because I was totally mixed up anyway. I wasn't quite sure of anything. So,
And then after that, kind of, by meditating, this helped, or like there was a
immensely.
there was a moment that you could feel like now I feel that I am understanding, and now I feel that
Mm,
things are making sense.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a few revelations in yourself, epiphanies, as they call them,
Hmm.
where, we call them realizations, and of course, epiphany is the way it's been,
Hmm.
where like all of a sudden, what you're doing wrong, you
Hmm.
know all the situation and how the situation gets you into a completely mental mess. So, and that helped me a great deal to learn how to detach myself.
Hmm.
And that actually, as soon as I had that and I realized I have to detach myself, things started shifting completely the different way because you ended up with a lot more joy in yourself. And also the other thing was, which was really important at that time, that people started to enjoy you as well because you
Hmm.
didn't come across so um, kind of hard nosed, because obviously this kind of churning in your head makes you a bit hard, a bit grumpy, I guess, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, and that completely changed. You became completely light and much more flow, that joy came naturally, that kept
Amazing.
flowing from you, you know.
Amazing.
I mean, it has its own problems as well, when you flow and reach joy, because of course, then the wheels of attraction, which also, is another thing where, again, you can get into the trap of going back into your old ways,
Hmm.
and that was definitely another fight of inner fight. It's not to fall back in your old self,
Hmm.
even though the wheels of attraction now, your mates, and everybody who used to know you or who used to hang out with, and then suddenly you find yourself in that churning wheel again. And I definitely didn't want to go back in that wheel.
Hmm.
So, with that, I managed to keep that joy as well as detach myself from
It's
the
more
work.
it's very interesting when you kind of talk about joy, because I think a lot of people who are looking for meditation nowadays, they are actually not necessarily looking for joy now, but just to calm their minds. So how you feel
Yeah,
that the difference from the people seeking in the 80s and people seeking nowadays? Because I thought,
yeah,
or at least when I see my parents, that they had, for example, they had Bhagavad Gita, like
yeah.
they would read the Bhagavad Gita. So there was some sort of a seeking more about this Indian knowledge. And perhaps I feel nowadays that we are seeking much more about just to calm down our minds, but we don't want to know much about the
Mm.
philosophy. Can you feel this? Do you also perceive like that, this difference?
There is there is a bit of difference. I mean, there was definitely a time where a lot of big stars, got into Hinduism, you know.
Hmm.
So these big stars,
The
and of
Beatles,
course,
no,
and
perhaps they started now with this
yeah,
wave,
you
perhaps.
could say, yeah, I mean, there was more than just the Beatles. It
Hmm.
started far before the Beatles. I mean, obviously they popularised some bits, but obviously, as we know, it's not all that great. I mean, but and that brought a lot of these books about meditation and seeking, and meditation mainly, and the different stances of how to awaken the energy, and the amount of other people trying to teach people,
Hmm.
So, but of course, but the difference, I guess, now is gone more towards health.
Hmm.
So, for example, yoga, and some some young lady was arguing with us, saying that we're advertising wrong, because we're advertising yoga and we don't do exercise, so what's wrong with us? We should advertise it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously, no, it's in your head, try and think what yoga means. Like, find out what it means first, please, and maybe you'll understand it differently, So the thing is that, of course, that's the point. The yoga's become an exercise, but a well-being.
Mm-hmm.
So people are looking to, use it as a well-being tool. So this is the difference where, it wasn't really a well-being tool. It was a spiritual movement in the early times, where you took it for understanding a higher self or a higher awareness or consciousness, and so they used it more in consciousness and awareness and spiritual, but now we're using it as a health program. You stretches, you feel a little bit better, you open this chakra, that chakra, and but at the same time, I think what has not changed, is basically the same churning in all our heads, which is, what's it all about? What is life? Okay, life is to enjoy yourself. Yeah, we try and we do, but it has its wheels of joy and then mundane and then unhappiness and then round and round.
There's a cycle.
The cycle of trying to make the best out of this thing, but not really understanding what it is. So I think that the churning in the mind, we still all have the same thing, which is basically we're all in dispute of, what is this, what is this, and what are we to evolve to? Do you know what I mean? As we all understand, the more we're evolving as man, the more actually we're destroying everything around us. So it's not like we're evolving to, a greater being that has actually nurtured everything around itself, So we've still got a lot to learn. And I think everybody knows that. So I think the seeking is still inwards. There's still a lot of people asking the same question. What is it? What am I? Where are we going? Is this it? When I'm put in the earth, I just turn the dust and voila. And of course, with the beauty about the world now, the international understanding, the global understanding of different aspects of life or different ways of thinking, different philosophies, we're all coming to understand that there is much more. You know what I mean? There is, it's not just you perish and then you wait for Judgment Day. There's a cycle, there's a movement of a higher understanding,
And
so I think...
Sorry, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the inner seeking is very much the same. The questions are the same. But of course, the outside has become more of a well-being rather than a spiritual progress,
Yeah, so I think probably this would lead us kind of to a question, because we're talking about yoga and meditation. So what do you feel that's meditation for you? Because as you mentioned, like there is this confusion. What do you feel is meditation for you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, when I started, of course, it was all about the words and what, the understanding and that. But what I noticed is that, when I used to go to the programs, but after the programs, I was completely free, light, free, and just content, and I remember, it's that kind of like, burden free. You walked out of the program completely quenched. You had a mental bath. The beauty of it is that, you feel the tranquility. You felt that tranquility. Of course, it didn't last very long for me because again, my brain asking questions, and basically, you'd see the world and you'd react. And of course, that creates that. But I used to feel that complete silence afterwards, that complete bliss, where I felt content in myself, I felt content. So the meditation held me into it held me into myself. It held me into this silence. But of course, I found it very hard to meditate at home because I couldn't stop the mind, and I remember I used to sit there for about, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds sometimes, I would sit there and put my hands out, raise the Kundalini, sit there and I go, joking, how do you stop the thoughts? You can't, And then I asked somebody in a meeting, I said, look, it's been about 4 or 5 months, and I said, I still can't go faultless. I can't stop thinking. And he said to me, okay, when you meditate, don't close your eyes, just look at strategy and just hold it there, hold your eyes steady there. And then when you feel relaxed, then close your eyes. That made a world of a difference, because what I realized is that when I closed my eyes, I was looking for something, which was basically I was looking to meditate. So I closed my eyes. Here I am. I'm trying to meditate. Okay. Well, what do you do when you meditate? I don't know. I have no idea. Okay. All right. This is impossible. See you later. But when I opened my eyes and I gazed on humanity, just relaxed there for a moment, I felt that calmness come on me. So, because obviously I was using the strategy as a focal point, just hold myself.
You're guiding your attention to a focal point, and then naturally the thoughts would calm down.
Absolutely. Oh, you just calm down. You'll be in the moment, just looking. And then the eyes would just come down quite naturally, to be honest with you. The eyes would just come down naturally. And of course, it wasn't for hours or anything. It wasn't even for 15, 20 minutes. A lot of the times I would not have an idea, apart from knowing that I had to run out the door because I was going to be late to work. You know what I mean? So that was the indication that, oh gosh, I've been there for about 10 minutes. I didn't even know, So you go into a state of complete oneness with everything. And then obviously you do have to get up and go and do your work and earn your cash and whatever you. So, and that's fine. But during the day as well, what I found is that I became much more at ease with myself and at ease with everybody else, in a sense that, I didn't react so much into things. It became harder for people to wind you up, or things to wind you up, so
you become much more less reactive, no, to what people say.
Far less reactive, but also, just that contentment, And I remember, actually, one Sahaja, I remember walking past, and he goes, "Oh, he's always happy," And I heard that, and I thought, then I realised, yeah, actually, I'm walking around with a smile in my face, and I didn't even know, because I was genuinely happy, I was happy again. But I didn't even realise that I was walking around with a grin, elated, It was only when it was referred on the outside that I started to. But even, when I came to Sahaja, when I first came to Sahaja, I remember people, especially friends, were saying, "Pat, what's going on? You changed." And I'm like, "Oh, what? Really?" I had no idea, okay, if you say so. But they started to feel that there's a change in you, and they probably felt, like I said, that feeling of detachment and that love, that flow that you get, of that peaceful flow, where it does actually make people feel much more relaxed around you.
I found kind of very nice this technique that I believe that many beginners could try, like to focus on mother's picture and then to try to stay in thoughtless awareness. And also, I think probably would be a great opportunity for you, and I think would be very good if you could explain, like people, why kind of we need to meditate with mother's picture, with Shimataji's picture, because it's something that really helps immensely. But I think you would know very well how to explain that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that I wasn't looking for anything spiritual or guru or experiences. You know what I mean? I just needed to quench my mind, and I found that with Shimataji, it worked really, really quick and fast. But the focal on Shimataji's picture, there's a few things. Like first of all, like I said, having the focal point, yes, it's a great thing. But many other things, like I'll give an example. I had a little picture of Shimataji on a mantelpiece, on the fireplace. And I remember I was going into the room, in my room, and as I went past the mantelpiece, suddenly I felt this flow of energy pierce my top of my head. And I looked, and there she was, Shimataji. And, so it has an effect on the system, the photograph itself. So I went, wow, and then another time, I was at my brother's studio, and basically he had a photograph there. And there was a little photograph there we had. And when I went there, I looked at it, suddenly I felt the vibrations, this energy just falling on me, and I'm like, what's happening? It's like it was raining inside. It was it does, in my experience, it actually does maneuver things within ourselves, and even on a physical level, like you feel like a flow of kind of like raindrops coming on you. So to meditate there, you first of all, of course, is that focal point, relaxing the mind, allowing the mind just to be in this one moment. And then when you close your eyes, you feel one of the things is that the vibrations, which is a gentle coolness that flows. Now, sometimes, of course, you feel it on your hands. You feel just a gentle flow on your hands. But a lot of the times, you feel it within your system. And this is hard because, because we all have different experiences with Sahaja, and to explain it, well, I suppose that's the only thing. You can explain it best way as you can, and then leave people to it, because sometimes what happens, all this happens unexpectedly. It's like if I say to you, you put your hands out and you feel this, you may not. But what happens is tomorrow you might sit there and all of a sudden you put your hands out without thinking, and suddenly you felt what that person has mentioned, which is the cool flow of vibrations. So from the photograph, it tends to interact with you. Now, with me at the beginning, it was more of a mental interaction. I was asking questions or getting questions answered. But then it became more subtle, and I started to feel, the actual experiences of the Kundalini flowing or the vibrations flowing, and also feeling connected with that aspect,
I think a lot of times it's really where our attention is, not where is our attention. So in many ways, like to focus now also on Shimataji, who kind of gives these vibrations. So it's also kind of makes it much easier for us to meditate. And I think it leads us also to another question, because you've spent many occasions, many opportunities with Shimataji. So perhaps you could tell people, because most of people now, they don't have the experience now of staying with Shimataji, and I think how it
Yeah.
actually impact on your development or even in your meditation.
Yeah, I mean, um, the thing is, yes, being around Shimataji there's definitely a different atmosphere. Look, but obviously the biggest problem is that, again, if we go into a situation with things on our minds in the sense of the experiences, or it becomes a bit weird. You've got to be light-hearted, I would say. You go there, or you're in the situation and you're just relaxed in that situation. It's hard to explain in a way, but because to project what you would be like in a situation is different than actually when you're in a situation. Because you're spontaneously in there. You don't have a concept. So what happens is, you don't build up any concept. But of course, without a doubt, in all the times that, you'd go in near Shimataji's presence, even in, let's say, the same house, you would definitely feel the atmospheric change. I'll give you an example because, Shimataji was staying in the ashram in Muswell Hill, and I used to go home because that's where I lived every evening. I'd go to work and then I'd come back. And on my way back from work, I remember as I was approaching the house, I could feel the flow of vibrations going up my body and what we call clearing you out. You're getting cleared out. And I can feel the intensity as I was walking up to the house and when I went into the house. So you would know the atmosphere was different. It was a different atmosphere. But at the same time, the beauty of Shimataji was she made everything feel so normal. She made you feel very comfortable, in yourself, So you didn't, you weren't awestruck. You did feel this motherly aspect very, very much, and that was her secret, really, that she would make you feel like you've been mothered.
Wow.
And within that, you would have also all these experiences like the atmospheric, how you feel, but also the perfume in the air. You'd also have sometimes, just the air would have this aroma, this perfume. It's almost like one of them ancient perfumes like musk or oud or something. It was quite amazing in these ways. And of course, without a doubt, that bubbling of joy, was always automatic. It was like as if when you walked into that bubble, you're clear. And as long as you weren't thinking, you weren't going or analysing every situation, you were just being there and doing whatever you needed to, you just was in joy. You was in that space of, you were there, you were just happy, and you're happy to do whatever was required. We would move a wardrobe from here or go through things, look at different ornaments, what about this, but you'll be in that blissful joy,
And all the workshops that you would go, for example, all the workshops or, like the meetings would be in her presence, or?
No, that was only for big public events. Like, as you know, the Royal Albert Hall, we did that from 2001 all the way, from 91 to 2001. So there was a big public program that was with Shimataji. But everything else, it was just, ordinary Sahajogis volunteering themselves to do programs. So I'd go there and, there will be a Sahajogi explaining things and then Shimataji's video. And for me, it was always a video that I was really looking forward to because the videos were the ones that gave me everything I needed. All the nourishment that I needed was within the video, and so that was, and I've forgotten what that person said at the front, I mean, it was nice that he could get up there and explain a bit, but that's all I could do at that time, So it was actually just, it was very rare with strategy. Only at that time, it was only once a year that there was a national program in the UK,
Amazing.
And the rest were all by yogis, yeah.
And Pasquale, one question here, because we were talking about meditation and what actually you could tell to people who are starting to practice, because I believe that a lot of people are coming to Sahaja Yoga right now just to have like a peace of mind, because life became also very busy with all this social media, with technology, because I believe that in days technology was also completely different. With internet now became so much kind of speedy our minds. What sort of advice can you give to people who are starting meditation? Because you also gave in your experience a lot more than just peace of mind, but much more kind of a way to self-understand, to self-knowledge. So what would you would say to people who are coming for the first time or who are starting to meditate?
Yeah, it's very interesting because, a lot of people are, spiritually minded in a lot of sense, but they're really afraid of anything to do with like God or anything like that, which is hilarious, really, because life is one and whole package. You can't separate anything, and only have this tiny bit. You've got to understand the whole picture, and understanding the whole picture is where you actually find the peace within yourself, especially within yourself. I mean, if you're new, the main thing really is just take it easy. Don't over question it. Don't over try it. Just relax into it, in a sense that just a few minutes of meditation. Believe it or not, and if you learn how to just let go of the mind and then leave everything spontaneous, it happens a lot faster. Because for some reason, I would say, even if you're just looking for a well-being, especially mental well-being, I mean, it does that automatically, because when the Kundalini rises, first of all, it aligns all the different centers, which immediately should give you a sense of peace. So the first thing is to touch that peace. But what else can I say to new people, especially nowadays? Because you see, it's very difficult. What's difficult, I find, in people at the moment is that their fear of the unknown. Instead of knowing
because
that
of the
they
pandemic, because of the pandemic, or in general.
In the fear of the unknown, in a spiritual aspect. What I mean? It's like being afraid of being in a cult or being in a religious group and and that and the other. And they don't seem to know that they are fully in control of themselves. You are in control of yourself. You can say, "No, not to this, not to that," and easy open the door and walk away. Walk out.
There is some fear now of losing the freedom now of choice.
Absolutely. But the funny thing is that what I found with Sahaja is that by diving into the meditation, getting to know the different aspects of the meditation, spirituality, the God, and whatever it gives you a great sense of more freedom in yourself. You got complete freedom to be able to understand the whole picture in your own self. It's like, if somebody tells you the story of the Aborigines, and the big snake in the Mother Earth, you know how that all comes about. There is a context there that actually works. So from a far-fetched place and so ancient, like the Aborigines in Australia, you can make sense of something, that's real. And from the Red Indians, or should I say the natives in America, you have that similar, connection. So, and even to the, to the Christian or Jewish or the Muslim things, it all combines so easy, and it makes so much sense, which gives you a sense of complete freedom with it all. Not you are attached to this one now, which is only one, but it's not, it's full. So, the fear actually it's just a condition, that's been put on people by outside views,
Yeah, so I think really people have to have their own experience and try it, isn't it?
And their own minds, their own minds. I mean, my churning in my own head was mine, and I had to quench it for myself, and I found Shamaji being an immense help to actually bring that to a state where I can actually fully engage with life and enjoy it,
Amazing.
And that's the beauty. I think she gave me that part where I can go out there, and still fully participate in everything, and completely enjoy and immersed in it. At the same time, I'm still working on my spiritual self.
Amazing. Wow. Thank you so much, Pasquale. It was a great kind of opportunity to listen to your stories, and I hope that you can come next time in the future. Yeah. And I would just like to remind everyone, if anyone wants also to experience what Pasquale has experienced, every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. we have our Zoom meeting, so where you can meditate online collectively and enjoy kind of the mental side collectively. And so thank you again, Pasquale. And
thank you, mate.
See you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
And you. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the snow.